Well, welcome. Today we are doing a brief overview of playlists. I'm going to talk about what they are, how they can be used, how they, why they're effective, those kinds of pieces that may be helpful. And then if you want to know more, I'm gonna talk about Weebly, which is a free web platform. So if you don't have your own access to your website for your own church, or you feel like it might be helpful to have its own page and you want to know more about Weebly, then you can contact me directly and I can give you kind of an overview of what that looks like. So faith formation playlists are short learning experiences around a theme or a topic. And one of the words that we've been using is a micro learning experience. So it's just a real small, narrow focus that families or individuals can complete in the amount of time that they want to give to it. And it has a mix of media and methods and learning apps, and there's so many ways that you can put them together and use them. And they're effective partly because people can pick out the things that speak the most to them, that they really want to dive in and grow more on. And this is that 24/7 learning that people can pick it up at any time that works for them asynchronously. And then they can also be used in conversations with other people. So you could, everybody go through this playlist beforehand and then we'll have some discussion about it later. So here's two examples. I think most of you have seen the playlist that I put together, but those are two examples of, here's like some micro learning experiences around the 1 Corinthians passage and sharing God's love, and do not be afraid, which pulled out Psalm 23. So of course, anytime that I teach anything, starting with your why is important. You have to know why you're putting together a playlist. Just throwing them together to put them up on your website so you have content isn't necessarily the best thing, but knowing your why can be helpful. And if this is a newer concept to you, Start With Why by Simon Sinek is a fantastic book, or you can watch his YouTube. It's a TED Talk on YouTube. It's about 18 minutes long, called Start With Why. And it helps to reframe. So often we start with what are we going to do, and then work backwards. And if we start with our why are we doing what we're doing, then we'll have, and we can share that well, then people can catch that passion and that excitement, and then they'll want to do what you're doing, or what you're offering. Okay, so a few things to consider. We're in this hybrid faith formation world right now. Some of us are going to have gathered and digital. Some of us are going to have only an online presence for a while. So this is great for being able to work both sides and bridge that gap. It's that like teeter-totter that I've talked about before, with virtual or at home on one side and in person on the other, and how we're in this time of kind of back and forth. These faith-forming processes come from Faith Formation for the 21st Century, Reimagining Faith Formation for the 21st Century by John Roberto. It's a fantastic book. I might have an extra one or two around if anybody wants to look at it more deeply. But these are the places that these 8 places that he pulls out as really important, and places that we can create playlists around, or highlight in a playlist. And then use what you have. Trying to do something new can be overwhelming, but what do you already have? What have you already done that you can put into a playlist that is shared more widely with your people? So it doesn't necessarily mean starting from scratch. In fact, all of the playlists that I have put together, I haven't, other than like the wondering questions and the prayer, and then the intro, all of it's been curated content. It's nothing that I've created, it's things that I have found. Some things are more easy to find than others, but it's things that I have found. Okay. how can I use a playlist? So one of the neat things about playlists is that you can hit lots of different multiple intelligences in one playlist. So for example, if you designed a playlist that included an article to read, a video to watch, music, a nature prayer walk, or journal prompt, and talking points, you have included nearly every learning style. Some of them crisscross. And you don't have to include them all in every playlist, but it does help to keep the attention of the learner and invite them back for continued learning and growing. And it also is a neat way to think outside the box. So could you create a playlist for grandparents and grandchildren that they can do together? Especially right now with social distancing and or even in the pre-COVID world with physical, like people are far apart. My family lives in Western New York. So could there be ways that we could put these together that grandparents and grandchildren could use? Or what about different milestones in the church? Like 3rd grade Bibles are coming up pretty soon for a lot of places. Is there a way that you could put together a playlist for 3rd grade Bibles? And one of the cool things about websites is that you can password protect a web page. So if it was something that was that you can use for local church only kind of curriculum or resources, and you password protect that page and only your people have that password, then it allows you to create something. So if you were going to use, for example, like the 3rd grade Bible, and you were going to use the Learning to Use My Bible resource, and you wanted to have those things up for individuals to use, but that's for local church use only, you can put it there. Only people from your local church have the password, and you can that way it's available for your people. There's lots of different ways that you can put a playlist together. I'm going to focus on 3. The first is a menu approach. So think about going to a restaurant or ordering out from a restaurant, and they have, the appetizers and the burgers and the sandwiches and the main entrees, all those kinds of things, and you get to pick what works the best for you. It's the same kind of thing with the faith formation menu approach, where you offer some things to read, some things to watch, here's something you can participate in, here's something you can listen to, here's activities you can do, here's a way to pray and reflect. And then people can choose what's going to work the best for me from these options. Menu playlists are great to complement a sermon series because you can just add additional components that families or individuals can do on their own. It could be part of a church season at home, like Advent or Lent, a part of adult study or class that families can use, youth can use. They can be either completed on their own, or you can begin by asking people to explore the playlist and then gather either in person or online for conversation, or you begin with a conversation and then you go and explore the playlist for more. So those are kind of a couple different ways to think about that. So they can be both synchronous and asynchronously used. The other one is the learning process. And this is also called sequenced learning. I saw this being used last year in the classroom, and I think it will be used even more so this year. So this is like we gather together either virtually or in person to learn about a topic. We learn more about that topic. Then I have content on a website that people can use to learn more. Then they create a project for it. Then they present the project, and then we debrief and share that learning. And I have an example of what that could look like that I'll show you in a few minutes. So this is both synchronous and asynchronous learning. And then the other way is, you may have seen these kinds of pieces before, but like the top 10 or 5 ways or those kinds of things. And these are great, especially for people who don't have internet access. So you can post it on the internet, but you can also print it off and send it to people. And you just are careful about the 10 ways or the 5 things or whatever you're doing. that have a component that don't require internet or don't require large gatherings or, you know, those other pieces, or have things that people can do at home. A lot of libraries have access to things that people might be able to access. Either some of it's online, but some of it's also order it and then you can go pick it up. Or how can you support people who are at home, those kinds of things. So that's another, it's kind of an out of the box playlist, but that's basically what it is. Okay, so I'm gonna show you a couple of examples so that you can see some of the things that I'm talking about. And I forgot to pull these up ahead of time, so give me just a second. There we go. So this is Faithful Families, and this is from First Presbyterian Church of Stillwater, Oklahoma. And this is how they set theirs up. So there's parents, children, youth, family life, and seasons. I'll click on the parents one. So they have information about what they do. They have some anti-racism resources. Here's some faith language kinds of things, COVID, and then parenting in an anxious world. So these are like menu, right? Here's some different things that you can learn. It's more general. Here are a playlist. This is the one that they did for the Road to Emmaus. Read this, watch this, wonder this, pray this, and then do. So really simple. And then if you want more, here's some more that you can do. So it has that read, watch, menu playlist where you can either, there's a point, also that sequence learning where you can, one thing leads to another, wondering together, and then here's some things that you can do to practice what you've learned. So that's one of the examples. Another way that you can set up a playlist is if you don't have access to a website, for example, you can do it in an email. So this is my friend in Texas, and they're looking at talking about the greatest commandment. And here's the memory verse, here's a book, some wondering questions, here's how you can, some ideas for practicing kindness, a prayer, a blessing. So that's how she sets it up. And then it just gets sent right to families. So it's right in their inbox. That would be another way. This is in MailChimp, but you can do it in whatever program. You can do it in Outlook. You can do it in whatever program you have. You can make that work. And I'm going to also show you this one. So I was talking about the sequence learning. Imagine that you are teaching a confirmation class and the focus is on Wesley's 3 general rules. So we have a class together, either online or in person. We talk about what are the 3 general rules. We go deeper, and then we offer some other things that they can take a look at. So Wesley Brothers are really fun. Here's a video that you can watch. Here's an infographic, and then here's a couple other ways that you can learn more. Then the students will pick the rule they want to focus on, and here's some things that they can do to learn more about that. Interview a pastor or a mentor. You can read about it from this book by Reuben Job. You can ask friends or trusted adults what the rule means to them, those kinds of things. And then they practice it. So I've learned about it with my group. I've studied it more on my own. I've talked to some people about it. Now I'm going to choose one and practice it. And then I'm going to share what I've learned. And I might take some pictures and make a photography collage, or I might draw something, or I might write a song, or whatever that looks like that can be really creative, that can share what I've learned with the rest of my confirmation class. So that gives you both the synchronous piece, and then it gives you some asynchronous pieces, and then synchronous again. And then the other part of just fun FYI, this is a website that a couple of colleagues and I are putting together that talks about starting with your why, planning faith formation, some online ministry tools. I'll click on that one because it's kind of fun. And so this is another way, if you wanted to do your own content, that you can do a quick video. Here's a file that you can download to reflect on the video and think about what we're doing around online ministry tools. And then here's some ways to explore more. So that's another, this would be more like, this is adult leader focused. But another way that you can put thoughts together for a playlist. Okay. So one of the things that's really important as you're considering playlists are the resources that you put into it. And what you'll want to do is establish guidelines for go-to resources. And if this can either be something that you use on your own, or if you choose to have a group of people who are helping you to put playlists together, that you can say, this is what has to be included, or that we are looking for in our resources. And it's, things like biblical content interpretation and theology. Is it developmentally appropriate? Is it ethnic and culturally appropriate? Does it show diversity? Does it respect the many ways of learning? Is it visually inviting and easy to use? And is it something that people can adapt into their daily home rhythms? So those are a few things to think about. So like mine is, the ones that I put together are things like, it has to have United Methodist Wesleyan theology. It has to be developmentally appropriate. It needs to show diversity. If you're using a video or books, it has to be, visually appealing. Which, finding inclusive language whenever possible. Those kinds of things that you are gonna, you want to make sure that you have in your pieces. And then as you're doing that, you can think about where are the places that I would send people first. So like I have a list of places that these are my go-tos, places like Build Faith, which is out of the Virginia Theological Seminary, and is Episcopalian, I believe, but mainline enough that it overlaps well. And I tell people to go to Christine Hydes, and she's a United Methodist deacon, so I trust her. I tell people to go to Discipleship Ministries. I tell people to go to, there's a couple other places that I'm like, go here, I trust them. Cokesbury, you have to be careful with Cokesbury because they're not just United Methodist. They reach a broad range, but if you go to United Methodist Publishing House, that is United Methodist. So be aware of the difference between those two things. And then I'm going to identify potential resources, evaluate them, and then select the resources that I want to connect to my playlist. And here's a fun list of all the things that you can connect, and many, many, many more. Really, the limits are your own imagination and capacity. One thing, if you are going to use a website, it's always better to link rather than embed or copy and paste. Because, for example, if I'm putting in a YouTube video and YouTube has a check mark against it, then they'll take it down automatically and it'll come off of my page automatically, and I'm not going to get dinged for it. But if it's on my page and it gets taken off of YouTube and I've copied it and put it in mine, then I still technically, if it was deemed to be illegal, then I have illegal content on my page. So that's just one way to kind of get around If you find, and be careful, because not everything that's posted on YouTube or Vimeo is really okay. So whenever possible, try to go to a trusted source, right? Like if you're looking for VeggieTales, going to I Love VeggieTales versus the official VeggieTales channel. Try to stay with official places. Sometimes that's easier said than done. And here's a list of an example of the places that I trust the most. And there's some places that I'll put like, you can use Saddleback Kids videos with caution, right? Because some of them are not so much appropriate, but some of them are great. So thinking that way through, and then, why do I have caution on some of them? And making sure that you always watch something all the way through, which is the part that takes the most time as you're curating things. If you're interested in doing this on your own, I have put together some templates that help to organize it helps me organize my thoughts so that when I go to do the playlist, it's just copy and paste. It takes me a lot less time when I get to the actual building of the email or of the website. And it can be helpful for you. It also is a purpose and a why. Why am I doing this? Who's my audience? And what's the theme? To help me to stay focused, because it's really easy. That's one of the things I've heard is, but I want to put all of these things in. It's like, nope, pick 3. Pick your favorite 3 and say, maybe you have a want to know more, and then you can put more there. But in the actual playlist part, limit what you're going to actually put in there, because people aren't going to watch it all. And they're going to get overwhelmed and go, this is too much, I'm not going to do anything. So pick your top 1, 2, maybe 3. And then there's also a template for the sequence learning. The other piece of this is communication, not only among your staff. So you want to let other people know what you're doing, get some buy-in, help them to know what's going on, and then also letting your people know. And just like with anything else, it takes 7 times 77 times sometimes to get people to really know what's out there. But if you connect it to a sermon series and it's talked about during worship, then there's another way to get people plugged in, because then you can put it on your Facebook page or on your YouTube notes of, hey, you want to know more, here's the playlist where you can go deeper. If you connect it to an adult Bible study, or if you connect it to a milestone or a church event, or starting these kinds of things in a season like Advent or Lent is a great way to get those momentum, because people are expecting something new in Advent. The fall, they're expecting something new, and fall might look different. So usually we start stuff like now after Labor Day, and we may not start new things until October. So that gives you a little bit more wiggle room if you wanted to do this kind of piece. And then your platform. If you already have a web platform from your church that you can just jump into, fantastic. If you are starting from scratch and you want to build your own, you can try Weebly or Squarespace. You can just use your normal email. You can put it in Google. That's another way. Is just create some Google Docs and put them up right there. Or you can use flyers. Like Canva is a free online graphic design place. I believe that nonprofits can use Canva Pro for free if you go through a few steps. So if you didn't know that, I haven't looked into it, but because I've already paid for my year, but that might be something to look into, or doing it in a like Word or in a publisher type thing. So those are the ways you can do it. I'm going to show this again. This website page that I did is in Weebly, and to get it all set up, it probably took me maybe an hour to get like the big pieces done. Once you create a page, you can use that as your template and then just copy that page. So, for example, here's the Sharing God's Love playlist. So if I like the way that this is formatted, I can just copy it. This is in Weebly. Copy it, and then I just change the content, but the template is already there. So if you want to know more about Weebly and getting that started up, I can help you.